Today we're going to talk about startup leapfrogs. If you lived in Silicon Valley, one of the things that you notice is that there's this whole fixation about being the originator, the innovator, the coolest kid on the block. But when you look at it from an analyst perspective, what you see is that there's a lot of innovators that are also copycats. And one of the things that I've noticed myself is that you'll have an innovator do some really cool stuff, but at some point as the market evolves, is they also become a copycat because the market is expanding, you're building new products, and then there's competitors that enter the market too, and they're copying you, and they're also innovating. So it's one of those vicious circles where you're the innovator, you become a copycat, and then at some point you invent something that's disruptive again, and you become the innovator, and then all these other competitors come in and they copy you, and then you have to end up copying them. In fact, a perfect example is the current iOS 7 scenario, where some of the market analysts and obviously Google fans are saying that some of the features from iOS 7 is actually copied from Android. And I'm like, yeah, well, really? No kidding. That's gonna happen. Okay, you're gonna have people copy each other. I mean, look at this scenario between Apple and Samsung in terms of product innovation. So you're gonna have that circle going around and around and around. And obviously the aspect of who becomes the innovator and who becomes the copycat really depends on how the market shifts. In the case of smartphones, for example, because the smartphones are penetrating the market globally, what's happening is now that innovation also has to happen at the low price point. So in those cases, you've got Nokia as an example and Samsung trying to attack those markets, and Apple, of course, is looking to come out with their own low-end product. So once again, it's innovator becoming a copycat and then hopefully becoming an innovator as well. The key point I want to emphasize here is that you have to become a quick and efficient leapfrog at some point in your cycle. And don't be bashful about that. But don't forget, when you're leapfrogging somebody by copying them, make sure that you're still thinking about creating some disruptive innovations. A perfect example of copycat leapfrogging also, and this is a really simple one, it's kind of embarrassed to even mention it, but I will, is that Facebook came out with hashtag. Okay, and from an analyst perspective, it's kind of funny because, of course, Twitter is the one that's been using hashtag for quite some while. From an innovation perspective, it's kind of funny because obviously hashtag is really not innovation, but it's actually a good copycat move by Facebook because obviously they want to insert all kinds of interest and topics within the stream of communication with the Facebook user. So don't be bashful to be a copycat, but by the same token, as you're copying others, always think about how do I improve this continuously, and how do I improve it discontinuously too, where now I'm going from a copycat back to an innovator. The cool thing about being an innovator and a copycat, depending on the timing, is that if you end up winning in the category, like Apple has done it in the digital music players, they've done it in the smartphones, and also they've done it in the tablets, is that even if you didn't think of the idea, even if you weren't even the first, you end up getting the credit. And it was funny because I was watching Bloomberg television and they were talking about Apple and its lack of innovation recently, but then they stuck this slide up where he talks about Apple being the innovator in all of those three sectors, and they actually use the terminology Apple created these categories. So I find it quite comical, which leads me to another key point. History favors the winner. So you don't have to be the originator, you don't have to be the innovator. As long as you end up owning the category, you're going to get the credit sooner or later. Until next time.